Well, there was a time not that long ago when New York, California, Illinois were beacons of opportunity in America. Odds are you may have grown up in one of those states precisely because they were that. But now those three states are failing, and they're doing so at a very rapid pace. In 2017, New York, California, and Illinois were the first, second, and third in losing residents to other states. New York leads. New York lost 180,000 people to other places. California lost 156 people total. That number may be misleading because of the inflow. We're not exactly sure. Lost a ton, though. Illinois lost 114,000 people. They're the only states to lose more than 100,000 of their own population. Now, why is that happening? Well, you know the answer. All three of those places have become really hostile to normal people, to the American middle class. They're now places for the very poor and the very rich, with very little in between. They have a recognizable economic structure. It looks like Venezuela, 2010. Do they have plans to change that, though? No, they don't. Instead, their plan is to further tax the middle class to provide benefits to illegal aliens from other countries. In the state of California, the new governor, Gavin Newsom, says he will fight hard to uphold the state's sanctuary law. Watch this.
Together, let us build a house stronger than the coming storms, yet open to the world. A house that provides shelter to all who need it and sanctuary to all who seek it. We will not have one house for the rich and one for the poor, or one for the native born and one for the rest. We will build one house for one California.
The emptiest suit in politics. Sanctuary for all, though, all the world. Welcoming California now at taxpayer expense. Meanwhile, in New York, Bill de Blasio is promising free health care for illegals. For real, watch this.
It's going to be, for the first time, a guarantee of health care. We're going to guarantee health care for New Yorkers who need it. We also have a way to provide direct health care to a lot of our neighbors who happen to be undocumented. They're still part of our community. They need health care. Their families need health care.
Dave Rubin grew up in New York, lives now in California. He's got a vested interest in these stories. He's been watching carefully. He, of course, hosts the Rubin Report on YouTube and joins us tonight. Dave, it seems like there's a recognizable pattern here. What is that pattern?
Well, first off, Tucker, I don't know how I became a remotely sensible person growing up in New York and living in California now, but I guess I somehow did it.
Because you saw the alternatives, that's why.
Right. Well, I want to get that Gavin Newsom quote right. Did he say we have one house for the rich and one house for the poor, and that's a problem? He is quite rich. How many poor people do you think live in his house? I'm guessing zero.
Right around zero.
Endless. Yeah, right. It would be roughly zero. I don't want to pin him down too hard right now. But look, this is this endless hypocrisy. I want to be very clear on the immigration front. I am for legal immigration. We are a nation of immigrants. My great-grandparents on both sides came here as immigrants. I'm sure your family came here as immigrants. As a matter of fact, I know that they did. Almost everyone in the United States came here as an immigrant, unless you're Native American or your family was brought here as slaves, and that's a separate issue. We are a nation of immigrants, but the idea that if you come here illegally, you should be getting more from the state, so the state should take from some who produce and give to others who are here illegally in the first place, to thus, force them to stay further illegally. This is a major problem, and what this really comes down to is what is so consistent with everything that's happening on the left these days and with progressives. We say things that sound nice. It sounds nice. We're going to give everyone health insurance. We're going to have sanctuary cities. It sounds really nice. But these are not things that are good for a society that truly wants to be free, that wants you to keep what you earn, what allows you to live as you see fit. This is a recipe for disaster if we're incentivizing people to do illegal things. I mean, this is pretty basic stuff, and yet it's become somehow controversial to say any of this.
Why does no one ever raise the alarm over the more than 100,000 American citizens fleeing these states every year, and the close to 100,000 American citizens living on the streets as homeless people right now? You never hear anything about that.
You never do hear anything about it. I mean, I can tell you this. I've been on tour most of this past year, and I went to probably about 80 cities in the United States, all over the country, everywhere from New York to California. And I was on stage in Denver, and I did a joke about how great I thought the city was, and the economy was great, and the people were all nice. I said, I'm considering moving to Denver. And after the show, people were coming up to me and saying, please don't say that. We don't want more people from California here. That just tells you, they're sort of joking to me, but what they're saying is people are leaving California. If you're being taxed to the nth degree in California, they're getting out of California and they're moving to Denver. They're moving elsewhere. I mean, again, I could tell you that through doing this tour, all of the progressive cities, when I went San Francisco, when I went to Berkeley, when I went to Portland, Seattle, there are drugs, there are homeless people everywhere. In San Francisco, this is not a joke, there is actually an app to tell you what streets to watch out for human poop on. This is not a joke. People can check this out.
No, it's not a joke.
I mean, you go to a conservative city and it's pretty well run.
Yeah, I think Boise and Jackson are fine. Dave, thanks very much. Great to see you.
You got it, Tucker.
Bernard Whitman is a Democratic pollster. He's worked with Bill Clinton and former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg. He's looking at across an expanse of brand new Democrats tonight, and he joins us. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Tucker.
So I'm a little bit confused about this proposal from Mayor de Blasio. He's saying that everybody who is currently in the city qualifies for government-subsidized health care. Is there a limit on how long you've been there? Can I just come from any country in the world, land at JFK, and claim residency and get free stuff? Is there a threshold for how much you've contributed to the system, or is it just literally everyone?
Look, I think let me break it down for you. I think actually this is a very effective, efficient, conservative approach to delivering health care. The truth is, undocumented immigrants and those who can't afford health care already get free health care now. They go to the city's emergency room departments. It's a very inefficient way to deliver health care. They go for colds, they go for flus, they go for any number of things. They can't really get mental health treatment. They can't get basic services, so they go to the emergency room. Delivering health care, basic health care, preventative health care through the emergency room is a terribly inefficient way to do it. It's a drain on taxpayer money. This is looking at a way to manage health care better and to be able to sort of give preventive care to these people.
I'm very familiar with the talking point, but can I just ask you
it's not a talking point, it's true. It's basic economics.
Of course it's a talking point. So liberals push for universal access to emergency room care, and when that turns out to be a disaster, they're like, look, we have to give it to everybody because our first proposal didn't work, and you know that is true. But let me just ask you, is there a limit? So why wouldn't this be an inducement for the world to land at JFK, claim asylum, and all of a sudden get the fruits of the most prosperous society in the history of the world? I mean, I'm sincerely asking.
Is, Tucker, that's a good question, Tucker. The fact is, everybody already wants to come to New York. It's a very expensive place to live, but it is the beacon of the entire world. That's why it's America's largest city. People come here from all over the world to try to make it, and it's true. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. I think what de Blasio is saying is that if you're here and you don't have money, whether you're undocumented or documented immigrant, or you happen to be a citizen that doesn't have money, you deserve health care. Look,
let me just pin you down. Hold on. So if I land from country X the next day, am I eligible for this? Am I eligible for a government-subsidized colonoscopy?
You'd have
mental health screening. Seriously.
You'd have to ask the governor. But look, at the end of the day, if you don't really want undocumented immigrants walking around your city, I understand some people don't like that. Would you rather they be walking around your city healthy or sick? Would you rather they be walking around with mental health issues that could explode into violence, or would you like them to get treated?
It's not just about the illegals. Hold on. There are other people in New York City. It's a city of 8 million. Your middle class is fleeing, as you know. The numbers prove it.
They're not fleeing.
Them. They are actually. It's one of only 3 states.
The New York City population is very stable.
No, the city's population of middle-class residents making, from 30 to 70 is not stable at all. It's shrinking. And if you don't know that, you're not paying attention because it's true. So let me ask you, what about them? Like, they're paying for a lot of this stuff. You crowd up their hospitals. You make it harder for them to get services. Like, does anyone care about them, honestly?
I think that's exactly what the point is. We're trying to reduce the strain on the emergency room by giving people access to health care that can't afford it or can do so but on a sliding scale. So if you go to an emergency room and you happen to have money, you shouldn't have to wait hours and hours and hours because people are just sort of flooding the hospital unnecessarily.
Okay.
That's why if we give health care to people and can get basic preventative care, that has been shown to reduce emergency room visits that are unnecessary.
Okay, so here are the numbers, and I'll just end with this, but I just want to see if you can keep a straight face. Here's what de Blasio is saying this will cost. He says it cost $100 million, and it will cover 600,000 people. Now, we actually have a calculator on our iPhone, and we found that would amount to $166 per person per year. You think that you can offer government-subsidized health care to the indigent and will cost you $166 per year?
I'll say two things. One, it's factoring in. It's factoring in the fact that many of those people are already getting health care through emergency departments, so they're not going to be covered there, so those savings will go into the program. And two, $100 million, I was pretty surprised about that too. I think it's going to cost a lot more, but I think healthcare
So why lie about it? I mean, a colonoscopy costs $1,000.
Tucker, I think healthcare is a basic human right, and we ought to start trying to figure out how to deliver it. I think this should be a pilot program
to provide it to people from other countries. So we have an obligation to provide free healthcare to anybody in the world. I mean, last question: how many people do you think will live in New York in 20 years? I mean, do you plan to live in New York in 20? I mean, be totally
I will live
honest,
in New York.
on TV.
God willing, I will live in New York to the day I die, and I suspect in 20 years the population will be about 10.2 million.
Man, I bet you'll be in Florida.
I'll be on it. I'll be on with you in 2030.
I hope you're right. Look, I'm rooting for New York. I don't want it, but it's clearly falling apart. Bernard, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tucker.
And good luck there.
Thank you.